My name is Mira. I was 22 years old when this story began. I lived in Chennai with two friends. We shared a small flat in a busy area near the market. I had a small room, a small bed, and one cupboard that was always full and messy. My life was not perfect, but I was happy most days. I was a student. I studied English literature at a local college. I also worked part-time in a bookstore near the bus stop. I loved books. I loved reading and writing. One day, I wanted to write my own story. But more than that, I wanted to feel something special. I wanted something real. I wanted to feel love. That evening, I was sitting on my bed. My room was warm and quiet. I picked up my phone and sent a message to a friend. It was a simple message. I asked, "Are you coming for dinner tonight?" But I made a mistake. I typed the wrong number. I sent the message to a stranger. The person replied after 2 minutes. He said, "Sorry, I think you sent this to the wrong number." I smiled. I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. My mistake. But maybe you should come for dinner anyway." I don't know why I said that. Maybe I was bored. Maybe I wanted to talk to someone. Maybe I just wanted a small story to tell. He replied with a funny message. He said, "I would love to, but I live in Delhi." I laughed. Then I asked his name. He said his name was Karan. He worked in a tech office in Delhi. He said, "I go to work. I sit in meetings. I write code. I drink coffee. Then I sleep. And I do the same thing the next day." I said, "You sound like a robot." He said, "And you sound like a storm." I laughed again. His reply was strange, but sweet. We kept talking that night. It was not serious. It was light and funny. I did not feel nervous. He did not ask anything wrong. We just talked like old friends. The next day, I woke up and checked my phone. There was a message from Karen. He said, "Good morning, Mira. I hope you slept well." That small message made me smile. I replied, "Good morning. I slept okay. What about you?" That day, we talked more. I told him about my college. I told him about the bookstore. He told me about his job and his friends. He liked reading poems, but he never shared them with anyone. I told him I wanted to write a book one day. He said, "One day I will read your book and say, 'I know this writer.'" Our messages continued every day. I liked talking to him. He made jokes when I was sad. He asked me about my day. He remembered small things. When I said my teacher was rude, he said, "You need a medal for best eye roller in Chennai." I laughed so hard. I felt free when I talked to him. I could say anything. I did not have to pretend. I could be myself. At that time, my life was not easy. My parents were fighting back home in Coimbatore. My friend in the flat wanted to move out. I was late on my rent. I felt alone. But when I talked to Karan, I felt better. After 2 weeks, he asked if we could talk on the phone. I said yes. That night, I sat on the balcony with my phone. The sky was dark. There was a light wind. I called him. His voice was soft and nice. He asked about my day. I asked about his poems. We talked for 1 hour. Then we talked again the next night. And the night after that. Every day, I waited for his message. Every night, I waited for his call. I was happy. My heart felt light. One night, I asked him, "Do you believe in love?" He said, "No, I don't believe in love stories. They don't last." I was quiet. Then I said, "Maybe you don't believe because you never had one." After that, he was silent. He didn't speak for a minute. Then he said, "Maybe." 1 week later, he asked me a question. He said, "Can we meet?" My heart beat fast. I did not know what to say, but I said yes. He booked a flight to Chennai for the weekend. He said, "I will see you on Saturday." I felt nervous. I cleaned my room. I washed my hair. I looked at the one photo he sent me and hoped I would recognize him. On Saturday, I went to the airport. I stood near the gate. My heart was beating fast. Then I saw him. He was walking slowly. He was holding something in his hand. It was a small plant, a tiny green plant in a paper bag. He smiled and said, "For your balcony. It looked a little empty in your photos." I smiled too. I felt shy, but happy. He was not very tall. He was not very handsome. But he looked kind. He looked real. He looked like someone I knew for a long time. I liked him. I liked his eyes. I liked his smile. We spent 2 days together. We walked near the sea. We sat on a bench and watched the waves. We ate street food. We drank coconut water. He told me stories. I laughed. I listened. He listened too. He did not try to impress me. He just wanted to know me. I liked that. I felt safe with him. I felt calm. When he left, I felt a little sad. I stood at the gate and watched him go. I did not cry, but I felt something in my chest. I felt like something small and special was leaving. After that weekend, we talked every day again. He sent me more messages. He sent me small poems. He sent songs he liked. He sent a pen drive full of music and letters. He wrote, "I like how your name sounds, Mira, like rain on a quiet day." I read that letter 5 times. I kept it in a box. I felt happy. I believed in the moment. I believed in this small love. Maybe it was not forever, but it was real. And that was enough for now. We made plans. Maybe we could go to Udi one day. Maybe I could visit Delhi. Maybe we could live in the same city someday. He told his parents about me. I didn't tell mine. Not yet. I was scared. I was not ready, but I had hope. Then something began to change. I saw it before he did. The messages started to feel different. The calls felt too long. His jokes were the same. Laughed, but not always. I still liked him, but something in me was changing. I could not explain it. I started to reply late. I said I was busy. I spent more time with friends. I put my phone on silent. I still cared for him, but I was pulling away. I didn't want to hurt him. I didn't want to say goodbye, but I also didn't want to lie. One night he asked, "Are we okay?" I said yes, but it was not the truth. I was scared. I was confused, and I didn't know what to do. Before I share the rest of my story, I need to know, where are you listening from? Knowing someone hears me, understands me, gives me strength. After that night, I could not stop thinking. Karen asked me, "Are we okay?" And I told him yes. But inside, I knew the answer was no. I was not feeling the same anymore. I did not know why. I could not explain it, but something had changed. When he called me, I still answered. When he sent a message, I still replied. But my heart was not there like before. I tried to tell myself that I was just tired. College was busy. My job was hard. My parents were still fighting back home. My friend was getting ready to leave the flat. I had so many things in my head. Maybe that was why I felt far. But deep down, I knew that was not the full reason. I still cared about Karen, but I was not excited to talk to him. I started to wait before replying. I looked at his messages, but did not open them right away. Sometimes I said I was busy when I was not. He noticed. I could hear it in his voice. He sounded quiet. He asked simple questions. "Are you okay? Did I say something wrong?" I told him no. I told him I was just tired. He said, "Take your time. I'm here." That made me feel worse. He was still kind. He was still patient. But I felt bad for not feeling the same way. One day, I sat on the floor in my room. I was alone. My phone was next to me. I picked it up and typed a message. I said, "I need time to think. I hope you understand." I stared at that message for a long time. I didn't want to hurt him, but I also didn't want to keep pretending. After a few minutes, I pressed send. Karen did not reply quickly. I waited, looking at the phone. I walked around the room, then came back to the bed. My hands felt cold. My chest felt tight. After 1 hour, he replied. It was one sentence. He wrote, "I'll wait, no matter how long." I felt tears in my eyes. I cried that night. Not because I was angry, not because he was bad, but because I still loved him, and I didn't know what to do with that love. After that, we did not talk much. I stopped calling him. I stopped replying to his messages. But he did not stop. he kept sending small things. A song I liked, a photo of the plant he gave me, a joke he knew would make me smile. And then, on my birthday, he sent me a letter. A real letter in an envelope. I looked at it for many days. I didn't open it. I was scared of what was inside. I was scared of his love. I was scared because I did not feel the same anymore. I started to focus on my college work. I started writing again. I applied for a writing job in Bangalore. I wanted to go to a new city and have a new life. I told myself that it was better this way. I said, maybe this is the right time to move on. I tried to be busy every day. I worked. I cleaned. I walked outside. I filled my time with noise. One day, I sat in a small cafe. It was near my college. I was drinking tea and writing in my notebook. At the next table, 2 girls were talking. One girl said something. She said, "People don't really wait. They just pretend they are okay." I stopped writing. I looked at the table. My hands began to shake. Because I knew the truth. Karen was not pretending. He was really waiting. It had been almost 3 months. I had not spoken to him. I had not said goodbye. I just stopped. But he was still there. He was still hoping. The next morning I checked my mailbox. There was another letter from him. This time I opened it. My hands were slow. My heart was full of fear. The letter was short. His handwriting was neat and soft. There were no questions, no anger, just one quiet line. He wrote, "I hope the world is being kind to you. I still believe our story had meaning." I did not cry. I just sat there, holding the paper. My eyes were full. My heart was heavy. I put the letter in my drawer with the others. Soon, it was time to move to Bangalore. I got the writing job. I packed my books, my clothes, and the letters. I left Chennai with a small bag and a quiet heart. In Bangalore, everything was new. The roads were big. The people walked fast. I stayed in a small room. It had one table and one window. I started work. I wrote blog posts and edited short stories, but Karen was still with me. He was not there in the room, but he was there in my mind. He was in my heart. I went on a few dates in Bangalore. One boy liked music. One boy liked cooking. They were nice. But when I looked at them, I did not feel anything. I just remembered Karan, his soft voice, his simple jokes, his kind words, the way he listened, the way he made me feel safe. I started writing a new story. It was about 2 people who fall in love by mistake. But then they change. They move apart. One person waits. The other leaves. In every story I wrote, the man was like Karan. He waited. He wrote letters. He was kind, even when it hurt. One day, I got an email from an old friend. The subject line made me stop. It said, "Karan is in ICU. Road accident. Pray for him." I could not move. My eyes stayed on the screen. My hands were shaking. I opened the email. It was true. He had been in a car accident in Delhi. A truck hit him. His head was badly hurt. He was in the hospital. He was not awake. The doctors were not sure if he would live. I called the phone number in the email. A man answered. He said, "Yes, it is bad. He is in a coma. He may not wake up." I did not wait. I booked a flight to Delhi. I did not tell anyone. I packed a small bag and left. When I got to the hospital, it was cold and quiet. I saw his family, his sister, his father, two of his friends. They looked at me with tired eyes. I said, "My name is Mira." His sister stood up. She said, "He wrote about you in his notebook. He loved you." I could not speak. I just sat down beside her. The nurse said I could go in for 5 minutes. I walked into the ICU. It was full of lights and machines. I saw him on the bed. His face was hurt. His body had many wires. I walked slowly. I stood beside him. I touched his hand. It was cold. I looked at his face. He was still. I whispered, "I'm here, Karen." He did not move, but something inside me moved. I felt something break. I knew then that I had been running, not from him, but from myself. I had left him because I was scared. I thought love would hurt, but leaving him hurt more. I stood there in silence. I held his hand. I started to cry. I cried for the time we lost. I cried because I was late, but I was there now, and I would not leave. Karen stayed in the hospital. He did not wake up. The doctors said, "It will take time. We are trying our best." I came every morning. I sat near his bed. I read to him. I played soft songs. I told him small stories from my day. I hoped he could hear me. On the 3rd day, I found the letters he wrote me. I had kept them in my bag. I read some of them aloud. His words were sweet and kind. I wanted him to know that I remembered everything. I held his hand while I read. On the 5th day, something happened. I was reading a line from his birthday letter. Then I saw his fingers move, just a little. I called the nurse. The nurse ran out to call the doctor. I stood there, not breathing. I looked at his hand. It moved again. The doctor came in. He checked the machines. He checked Karen's eyes. Then he smiled. "He is waking up," the doctor said. "He is coming back slowly." I felt tears in my eyes. His sister came in. She started crying too. That night, Karen opened his eyes. He looked around. His eyes were not clear, but they were open. He looked at me. I smiled. He looked at me for a long time. Then he said my name. Mira. Just that one word. But it felt like the sky opened. The doctor said he needed rest. Karen could not speak much. His body was weak, but he knew who I was. He remembered me. That was enough for me. I sat with him every day. I gave him water. I helped him eat. I talked about simple things. One evening, I told him everything. I said, "I'm sorry I left. I was scared. I didn't know how to stay." Karen listened. He said nothing at first. Then he held my hand. He said, "You came back. That's enough." He stayed in the hospital for 6 weeks. His body healed slowly. He could walk again, but only with help. His memory was not perfect. Sometimes he forgot small things, but he was still Karan, still soft, still kind. After the hospital, he moved back to his parents' house. I found a room close by. I wanted to stay near him. I visited him every day. We sat on the balcony. We drank tea. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we were quiet. That was okay. He was not the same as before, but I was not the same either. And maybe that was fine. We had both changed. We did not rush anything. We did not say, "We are together now." We just spent time, one day at a time, one smile at a time. One afternoon, we sat under a tree. The sun was warm. He looked at me. He said, "You don't have to stay. I am not the same." I looked at his hand. There was a small scar. I touched it. Then I said, "You were never meant to stay the same. Neither was I." We built a quiet life. It was not full of big events, but it was soft and warm. I wrote again. He helped me check my words. He pointed out small mistakes. He liked to help. I liked to hear his thoughts. We were a team. Some days were hard. Karen got tired easily. He could not read long pages. He sometimes forgot names or places. At night, he had trouble sleeping. He looked at the ceiling for hours. I stayed next to him. I held his hand. One evening, he gave me a gift. It was a notebook, wrapped in old paper. "I wrote this for you," he said, "when I could still write more." I opened it. The first page had a short line. "You left, but you came back." I read all the pages. He wrote poems, memories, small thoughts. One page said, "Even pain is easier when you know someone still loves you." Another page said, "I don't need a perfect ending. I just want one that feels real." I closed the book and held it to my chest. It felt like gold. After 1 year, he asked me to move in. I said yes. I packed my books, my clothes, and my stories we moved into a small flat. The walls were cream. The windows showed the sunset. It was simple, but it felt like home. We had a good routine. Morning tea, short walks, reading together. We didn't travel much. We didn't go to big events. But we were happy. The flat was quiet. The air was full of love. It was enough. Then one morning, something went wrong. Karen was in the bathroom. I heard a sound. I ran in. He was on the floor. I called for help. The ambulance came fast. In the hospital, the doctor said, "It is a problem from the old injury. It is serious." He had surgery again. I waited alone in the hospital. The nurse gave me a chair. I sat with the notebook in my hand. I opened the last page. It said, "If I go, tell them I went loving you." He lived, but this time, he was not the same. His memory got worse. He forgot more things. He could not read well. He got confused in crowds. The doctor said, "Maybe it will get better. Maybe it won't." We went home together. I helped him with everything. I told him where things were. I helped him dress. I read him his poems. I told him how we met. I told him our story again and again. Sometimes he remembered. Sometimes he didn't. But he always smiled. One day he said, "I don't know if this is real or a dream, but it makes me happy." That was enough for me. Years passed. People asked me, "How do you stay so strong?" I didn't always have words, but I knew one thing. When someone gives you their heart, you must take care of it. Even if it is broken, even if it is tired, you don't leave. You stay. Karen passed away 3 years later. It was a quiet morning. The sky was soft. He was sitting by the window. He was holding his notebook. He looked like he was sleeping, but he was gone. I did not cry at once. I sat with him. I held his hand. I read his words, the page I loved most. "You came back. That's enough." I buried him with that notebook. Now, I live in a small flat. I live alone. But every evening I open the window. I make tea. I read one of his letters. And I write too. I finished my novel. It is not perfect, but it is real. It is ours. I called it The Heart That Waited, and every word still beats with his. My name is Lara. I am 29 years old. I live in a small flat in Berlin, Germany. I do not have many friends. I do not have a big family. Most days, I am alone. Some people like being alone. I do not. It makes my mind loud. Sometimes I think too much. Sometimes I feel too much. That is where my story begins. I was not always like this. I used to laugh more. I used to smile more. But something changed inside me. I started to get angry very fast. When people spoke to me in the wrong way, I felt heat in my face. When they ignored me, I felt like I was not real. I did not stop to think. I just reacted. I spoke fast. I shouted. I walked away. At first, I thought it was normal. I thought I was just strong. But I was not strong. I was breaking things without knowing it. It started with small things. One day, I was at a cafe. A woman behind me touched my arm by mistake. I turned and said, "Watch it." She looked at me with sad eyes. She said, "I'm sorry." But I didn't say anything back. I just walked away. I felt bad later, but I told myself it didn't matter. Then it started to happen at home. My neighbor played music one night. It was not very loud, but I was tired. I went to his door and shouted. He said, "Okay, sorry." But he looked afraid. I saw fear in his eyes. That made me stop. I went back to my flat and sat down. I asked myself, why do I act like this? But I didn't know the answer. The biggest change happened 1 year ago. I was close to my younger cousin. Her name is Rena. She was sweet and always kind. She helped me with small things. She called me often. She sent me food when I was sick. I loved her. But one day, she made a small joke. We were eating lunch. I was talking about a man I liked. She laughed and said, "You always fall too fast." Everyone at the table laughed. I didn't. I stood up and said, "You think you are better than me?" Her face changed. I said more things. Mean things. Things I did not mean. The room went quiet. Rena looked down. Then she left. I waited for her to call me. I waited for her to say sorry. But she didn't. 2 weeks passed. Then a month. I saw pictures of her with other people. I was not in her world anymore. I missed her so much. I wanted to say sorry, but I didn't know how. I had hurt her too much. And I knew it was not her fault. It was mine. I was angry. I was fast. I was loud. And now I was alone again. Time went on. I tried to forget. But the same thing happened again. This time with my friend Tia. We met at a small shop. She said hello and gave me a hug. Then she asked, "Are you okay? You look tired." I don't know why, but I felt angry. I said, "Don't tell me how I look." She was quiet. She said, "I didn't mean to upset you." I said, "I don't care." Then I left the shop without saying goodbye. Later that night, I sat on my bed and cried. I asked myself, why do I do this? I knew Tia cared about me. She did nothing wrong. But again, I broke something good. I began to feel afraid of myself. I started to keep quiet. I stopped going out. I didn't want to talk to people. I didn't want to lose anyone else. But that made things worse. I felt lonely. I felt sad all the time. I missed the people I hurt. I missed who I used to be. I didn't know how to stop the pain inside me. I didn't know how to stop my anger before it started. One evening, I went to the park. I sat on a bench. I watched the trees move in the wind. A child ran past me. She laughed and looked at the sky. Her joy was simple. I wanted to feel that again. I wanted to feel light, but my heart was heavy. I thought about my cousin. I thought about Tia. I wanted to go back and change everything, but I couldn't. I knew one thing now. I could not keep living like this. I had to change. That night I looked in the mirror. I looked tired. My eyes looked older than my age. I touched my face and whispered, "I want peace." I meant it. I didn't want to win fights. I didn't want to be right. I just wanted to feel calm. I wanted to speak kindly. I wanted people to feel safe near me. I wanted to stop losing everything because of my anger. The next day, I made tea and sat by the window. The sun was soft. The street was quiet. I didn't turn on my phone. I didn't open the news. I just sat and breathed. I told myself, when you feel the heat, stop. When you feel the fire, wait. Don't speak. Don't move. Just pause. That was the start. It was not easy, but it was a small step. And I knew if I wanted to stop losing people, I had to stop reacting fast. I had to learn how to feel without hurting. I had to learn how to speak without shouting. I had to learn how to hold pain and not pass it to someone else. Something in me was ready now. Not for noise, not for power, but for peace. Before I share the rest of my story, I need to know, where are you listening from? Knowing someone hears me, understands me, gives me strength. The next morning I woke up early. I felt quiet inside. Not happy, not sad, just still. I made tea and watched the sky. A bird sat on my window. It flew away after a few seconds. I smiled. I was ready to try again. I wanted to be better. I wanted to stop hurting people I cared about. I didn't want to feel sorry all the time. That day, I went to the small shop near my house. I saw the same woman who worked there. She smiled and said, "Good morning." I said, "Morning." Then I paused. I added, "Sorry for last time." She looked surprised. "It's okay," she said. Her voice was warm. She smiled again. I felt something new. I felt light. It was the first time I said sorry in a long time. After that, I began to practice silence. Not the cold kind, Not the kind that shuts people out, but the kind that gives me space. When someone said something rude, I stayed quiet. I looked at the ground. I counted slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. After 5 seconds, the feeling passed. The fire went down. I could think again. I didn't speak until I felt calm. One day, I saw a man at the bus stop. He looked upset. He was talking to someone on the phone. He was shouting. I stood far away. Then, by mistake, I stepped on his foot. "Watch it!" he shouted. I opened my mouth to reply, but then I closed it. I looked him in the eyes and said, "I'm sorry." That was all. Just 2 words. He looked confused. Then he looked down. He said nothing. The bus came. He got on. I didn't feel angry. I felt proud. I didn't lose control. I didn't ruin my day. Later that week, I saw Tia near the bakery. She was buying bread. I almost turned away. But something inside me said, "Stop running." So I walked up to her. She looked at me. I said, "Hi." She said, "Hi." We stood there for a moment. Then I said, "I was wrong. I was not kind to you. I'm sorry." Her eyes were soft. She said, "Thank you. That means a lot." I said, "I miss our talks." She nodded. "Me too." Then she smiled. A small one, but real. I felt like crying, but I didn't. We stood in the sun like 2 old friends finding a small bridge between us. Things were not perfect. Some days were still hard. I still felt angry sometimes, but I started to pause. I started to ask myself, is this moment worth it? Most of the time, the answer was no. Not every rude word needs a reply. Not every problem needs a fight. A few weeks later, something big happened. I got a message from my cousin Rena. She wrote, "Can we talk?" My hands shook. I read the message again. I said yes. We met at a small cafe. She came in wearing a blue scarf. She looked nervous. I looked nervous too. We sat down. I said, "I'm sorry." She said, "I know." Her eyes were wet. "Mine too." I said, "You were not wrong that day. I just felt small. I acted in a bad way." She held my hand. She said, "Thank you for saying that." I said, "I missed you." She smiled. "I missed you too." That day we laughed again. We walked by the river. The sun was soft. The sky was wide and clear. That night, I felt something I had not felt in a long time. I felt peace. Not just outside, but inside too. I saw that I didn't lose people because I was bad. I lost them because I didn't know how to stop myself. But now, I was learning. Slowly, gently. I made a new rule for myself. If I feel angry, I will wait. If I want to shout, I will walk away. If someone is rude, I will not fight. I will stay still. I will keep my power. I will not give it away. And if I do something wrong, I will say sorry. I will say it with an open heart. One evening, I was walking home. A car stopped too close to me. The driver shouted, "Move faster!" I stopped. I looked at him. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I took a breath. I walked away. A few years ago, I would have said many bad words, but now I didn't need to. That man was angry, but I didn't need to join him. I kept my peace. I kept walking. A few days later, I was with Rena again. She said, "You seem calm now." I said, "I am, Trang." She said, "It shows." That made me happy. I never thought I could be that person. The calm one. The quiet one. The kind one. But maybe I could. I started helping my neighbor. I helped her carry her shopping bags. I watered her plants when she was away. I smiled more. I listened more. I said less. And people began to come close again. I did not feel so alone. I wrote a small sentence on paper and kept it near my door. It said, "Peace is my choice." I read it each morning. It helped me remember. Life is full of noise. People will speak badly. People will hurt us. But we can still choose peace. I started to feel strong in a new way. Not strong like shouting. Not strong like fighting. But strong like water. Soft but sure. Light but deep. People did not fear me now. They smiled when they saw me. They asked how I was. And this time I had an answer. I said, "I am okay. I am learning." One day, something happened that showed me how much I had changed. It was a Sunday. I was waiting in line at the market. A woman behind me kept pushing her cart into mine. First, I thought it was a mistake. But she did it again. I turned around. I looked at her. She looked back and said, "Why are you so slow?" Her words were sharp. Her face looked angry. I felt the old fire rise inside me. My hands felt warm. My breath changed. I wanted to say something. I wanted to fight back. But I didn't. I stayed quiet. I looked down for a moment. I took a slow breath. Then I looked at her and said, "I hope your day gets better." That's all I said. Nothing more. She didn't reply. She looked confused. Then she looked away. When I walked home, I smiled to myself. A real smile. I didn't lose anything today. Not my words. Not my peace. I had kept it all. That was new for me. That was strength. Not loud, not fast, but strong and deep. Later that week, I saw a man yelling at his son outside a shop. The boy looked scared. The man kept shouting. People passed by, but no one said anything. I wanted to say, "Stop," but I remembered my own story. I knew shouting at him would not help. So I stood nearby and waited. When the man stopped to breathe, I walked over and said softly, "It's okay to be tired, but he is still just a child." The man looked at me. His face changed. He did not speak, but he held the boy's hand and walked away. That moment stayed with me for days. I had helped in a small way, not by shouting, but by staying soft and steady. That kind of help stays longer. I also began to understand why I used to react so fast. It was not just about the people. It was about me. My anger was not new. It was old. It came from my past, from small things I never spoke about, from moments when I felt ignored, from times when I wanted love but got silence. I had never healed those parts of me, so when someone hurt me in the present, I felt all the pain from the past too. It all came together. That is why I exploded. But now I was learning to feel the pain without passing it to others. I was learning to hold it, name it, and then let it go. I also saw that not every fight needs a winner. Sometimes walking away is the best answer. Sometimes silence is louder than shouting. Some people don't want peace. They want power. But I didn't have to give them mine. I didn't have to join their storm. I could stay in my calm. One afternoon, I went to visit my aunt. She is old and wise. She gave me tea and said, "You seem different these days." I said, "I am trying to change." She smiled and said, "I can see it. You used to carry fire. Now you carry water." That sentence stayed in my heart. I didn't need to burn everything. I could cool things down. I could bring calm. Some weeks later, I got a call from a place where I used to work. It was a woman from HR. She said, "We have a new position. Would you like to come in and talk?" I was surprised. I thought they forgot about me. I said yes. The next day, I went there. I wore a simple dress. I brushed my hair slowly. I felt ready. The woman was kind. She said, "We've seen your growth online. You seem peaceful and focused now. That's what we need here." I said, "I'm still learning." She smiled. "We all are." She offered me the job. It was a better role than before. I thanked her and said I would think about it. On the way home, I walked through the park. I saw two girls sitting on the grass, talking and laughing. One of them looked like my cousin Rena when she was younger. I stopped and watched them. Then I looked at the sky. The clouds were soft and slow. Everything felt quiet. I said to myself, "You are not that person anymore. You are not the storm." I felt proud, not for the job offer, but for the peace I now carried inside. That evening, I called Rena. We talked for a long time. I told her about the job offer. I told her about the woman at the market. I told her about the man with the little boy. She listened to everything. Then she said, "I am so happy for you. You are really becoming yourself." I said, "Thank you for not giving up on me." She said, "Thank you for coming back." That night, I slept with a soft smile. I didn't feel tired. I didn't feel heavy. I felt light, like I was floating. One Sunday, I met some friends at a small cafe. We laughed and shared stories. A man nearby was loud. He was talking badly about someone on his phone. At first, I felt tense. Then I looked at my tea. It was warm and sweet. I focused on that. I didn't listen to the man. I didn't let him take my peace. My friend said, "You didn't even look at him. A year ago, you would have said something." I said, "I choose quiet now." She smiled and said, "It suits you." I kept the new job. The people there were kind. One day, a young girl on my team made a mistake. A big one. She came to me shaking. I looked at her and said, "It's okay. Let's fix it together." She looked surprised. Then she smiled. I saw something in her eyes. Trust. She felt safe with me. That moment was worth more than any prize. I had become the kind of person I always needed in my past. Calm, soft, safe. Now when I feel pain, I pause. When I feel fear, I breathe. When I feel hurt, I wait. I ask myself, is this about now? Or something old? I answer with truth. I don't lie to myself anymore. That is how I stay free. One night I looked at my reflection. I saw a woman who had learned many things, not from books, but from life, from pain, from mistakes, from silence. I had lost people. I had lost time. But I had found something bigger. I had found peace. And peace is more than just quiet. Peace is a kind of power, the kind no one can take from you. Now, I walk slower. I speak softer. I listen more. I smile more. I still feel things, but I don't break things. I don't break people. That is the gift I gave myself. A new way to live. And if I could say one thing to my old self, the one who shouted, the one who cried, the one who lost too much, I would say this: you are not weak for staying calm. You are strong. You are free. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share. More emotional and inspiring stories are coming soon.